Chapter Towards Freedom. Since very ancient times, India was rich in natural resources. That's why people from different countries used to visit India for trade and commerce. The Arabs were the first to visit India for trade. Later, the Portuguese, the Dutch, the French, and the British visited India for trade. Out of all these, the English, British become the most powerful among all the traders. They established the British East India Company in India. They bought goods from India at low prices, sold these abroad at very high prices, and made huge profits. Now, gradually, the British East India Company took control over entire India. There was no unity among the Indian rulers. The British took advantage of the situation and conquered large parts of India. Discontentment among the Indians. Once the British were firmly established in India, they started exploiting the farmers, traders, craftsmen, and the rulers of local kingdoms. They exploited the local farmers by making them pay very high taxes. Thus, the farmers remained poor and many died of starvation. The cheaper machine-made clothes was imported to India from England and was sold by the British in the Indian markets. Thus, the handloom industries suffered and many weavers had no work and no earnings. Indians were not allowed to run mills and factories and trade items of their choice. Thus, there was discontentment among the Indians and many Indian rulers. The British passed a law which stated that the kingdom of the Indian rulers who had no male child would be taken over by the British after the death of the king. Hence, the dissatisfaction and anger of most Indians led them to revolt. Revolt against the British. Ever since the coming of British people, in different parts of India, the people have been protesting against their unfair policies. Hence, there was a major revolt in 1857 known as the Great Revolt of 1857 or the Sepoy Mutiny. Sepoy were the Indian soldiers serving in British Army. Hence, the Sepoy Mutiny was the first war of Indian independence. It was an important event in the India's struggle for freedom. The revolt was started by Mangal Pandey, an Indian soldier, Sepoy, in the British Army. Many Indian soldiers of the British Army in India also took part in revolt. There was a rumor that fat of cows and pigs was used to grease the cartridges or the new rifles that were bought by the British Army in India, where the soldiers had to bite off the greased wrapper of the bullet before loading it in the rifle. And so, this was against the religious sentiments of Hindu and Muslim soldiers. And so, all the soldiers refused to use these rifles and revolted. Also, the revolt started in Meerut and spread to northern and central India. The discontented farmers, weavers, and other discontented Indians also took part in the revolt. The last Mughal emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar was declared as the leader of Sepoy Mutiny by the Indian soldiers who revolted against the British. The revolt was led by Nana Sahib and Tantia Tope in Kanpur, by Rani Lakshmi Bai in Jhansi, and by Begum Hazrat Mahal in Awadh. After the revolt, the first war of independence was suppressed by the British. The revolt was not successful due to various reasons. Like, it was not supported by all the Indians, and Indian soldiers did not have sufficient money and weapons to fight against the Britishers. while the British soldiers had modern weapons. And so, the administration of India was taken over by the government of England. Social and religious reformers. The British had introduced English education in India. Many social and religious reforms slowly started by the educated Indians. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, and Debendranath Tagore were some of the notable reformers of India who were active during this period. They strongly protested against the then prevailing social practices like sati, which was a custom of a widow burning herself on the funeral pyre of her husband, killing of female babies, child marriage, and caste system. They also encouraged widow remarriage and women education. Rise of nationalism. Nationalism means the love and devotion for one's country. Now, here, the Indians started developing the feeling of love and devotion for their country, India, which leads to a rise of nationalism. Now, the educated Indians realized that the British wanted to keep the Indians poor and backward. This led to a strong feeling of nationalism which united the Indians. Thus, the Indian National Congress was formed in 1885 by a British man named A.O. Hume. The first session of INC, which is Indian National Congress, was held at Bombay, now Mumbai, and there 72 delegates from all over India attended the session. V.C. Banerjee was the president of the first session of INC. The Congress had meetings every year in different cities. At the same time, it was requested by the government to introduce reforms to improve the living condition of the people in India. The growing popularity of the Congress worried the British. And so, to suppress the rising spirit of nationalism, the government passed many strict laws. They also used the policy of divide and rule to prevent the Hindu and the Muslim from uniting.